chose scenario 1, the best friend's brother. That Friday evening, the air was thick with the scent of pine and rain-soaked earth when I stepped into the cabin, never expecting to feel my heart seize at the sight of him, my best friend's older brother, Daniel. He looked up from unpacking groceries, his dark eyes locking on mine as though no years, no rules, no boundaries existed. That one accidental brush of his hand against mine when I reached for the bread made my skin hum in ways I had long forgotten. It was supposed to be a simple weekend trip. We were just filling the refrigerator together, but my pulse told another story, and deep down I knew this was dangerous territory. I had spent my 30s searching for balance, stability, and emotional safety. My life was orderly. A quiet marriage to Mark, my high school sweetheart, who had long since stopped noticing me, a promising career as a marketing consultant, and a friendship with Clara so steady it felt like family. Clara's brother Daniel had always been part of that backdrop, kind in a distant way, polite, mature, always hovering at the periphery. His life too big and too far removed from my own to imagine any closeness. He was nearly 20 years older, freshly divorced, and living miles away in a world that revolved around business meetings and travel. So he was safe in my mind, off limits, untouchable. My marriage was not passionate anymore, but it was stable, until one afternoon when I found a receipt accidentally left on the counter. A boutique hotel for 2 nights, paid in full by Mark. He claimed it was just for work, but the tremor in his voice gave him away. The truth spilled weeks later, harsh and icy. He had been seeing someone else for months, a woman from his office. The air had gone cold inside our home, every touch replaced with silence. I remember walking into our bedroom after yet another argument to find his suitcase tossed on the bed and no goodbye, just a text saying he needed time to think. The metallic taste of unshed tears filled my mouth. Even the rain against the windows seemed to echo the hollow rhythm of my footsteps as I wandered from room to room. Every photo on the wall felt like a betrayal now. All those smiles from a life I could not get back. I could not decide if my pain was rage, grief, or the sudden wreckage of trust, but I knew I needed space before I lost myself entirely. That is how Clara invited me to the cabin. A friendly escape, she said. What she did not mention until the drive up was that Daniel would join us for part of the weekend. I thought nothing of it until Clara was called back to town urgently to help her daughter with a school competition, which left me here with him. The wind traced cold fingers against my neck when I stepped onto the cabin's porch that first night. Inside, Daniel was pouring wine into 2 glasses. "You look like you could use this," he said, his voice warm, steady, yet cautious. I noticed the subtle lines at the corners of his eyes, the faint scent of cedar clinging to a sweater, the way his hands moved deliberately, as though he noticed more than he let on. Over dinner, he asked about my work. The low flicker of candlelight caught in his eyes, and when I laughed at one of his dry jokes, I felt it, that slow heat curling from the center of me, chasing away the months of ice. Later, over steaming mugs of tea, our knees brushed under the table. Once, maybe twice. Too long to be dismissed, too brief to call attention to. The silence after those touches felt louder than our words. As night deepened, the sound of rainfall against the roof became a rhythm I could sink into. There was something healing in his presence, but also something dangerous. He carried himself like a man who had known both deep love and deep loss, who recognized in me a reflection of that same ache. The cabin seemed suspended in time. The only light from the fireplace, the air heavy with sandalwood from the logs. He talked about his divorce, about finding himself again after losing half of his heart, and my chest tightened with recognition. His voice dipped lower when he told me about the morning he had woken up alone in a house that no longer felt like home. The bitter smell of cold coffee still in the kitchen. I stared into my mug, realizing my own mornings felt much the same. If this confession has you holding your breath, wondering if I will cross that forbidden line, hit like and share because you will not believe what happens next. That night, I could not sleep. I wandered into the living room for water and found him sitting by the dying fire. He looked up as I entered, his expression soft but uncertain. "You could not sleep either?" he asked. I shook my head. He gestured for me to sit, and before I could stop myself, I did. The space between us felt almost non-existent now. He studied me for a long moment, and then his voice was barely above a whisper. "You deserve someone who sees you, Olivia." Hearing my own name in his mouth felt like sunlight breaking over a frozen landscape. I did not answer, not with words. My gaze held his, searching, lingering, weighing the risk, feeling every beat of my heart like a drum warning me and urging me at once. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my cheek with a touch so careful it broke something inside me. No one had touched me like that in years. My breath caught. He did not push forward. He simply sat there, as if giving me permission to choose. And in that moment, I understood the danger was not about desire. It was about connection. Real, unguarded, unscripted in a way I had almost forgotten how to feel. Morning brought clarity and confusion in equal measure. We had not kissed, not even held hands, yet something irreversible had shifted. Over coffee, we spoke lightly about the weather, but each glance across the table was heavier than the words themselves. When Clara returned that afternoon, she found us laughing softly at a joke about the squirrel that kept stealing the birdseed. But beneath that laughter was an unspoken truth. We were no longer strangers at the edges of each other's lives. The weekend ended, but Daniel kept finding reasons to call about a book he thought I would like, a recipe to try, a follow-up on a conversation we had begun. And every time I heard his voice, it was like rediscovering a hidden language. Months later, I left my marriage. It was not for Daniel. It was for me, for my own healing and the chance to rebuild. Daniel did not rush in. Instead, he waited, steady, patient, until I was ready to reopen my heart. Our love did not explode overnight. It grew like those quiet embers in the cabin fire, fed by warmth, trust, and shared grief. He taught me that second chances are not always loud or sudden. Sometimes they whisper in the smallest of moments, disguised as friendship, disguised as care, until you realize they are exactly what you have been missing. And maybe one day, I will tell Clara the whole truth. For now, it is enough that I have found someone who sees me, knows me, and values me, not in flashes, but in the long, slow burn of something real. If you crave more raw emotional confessions, please like, share, and subscribe. Your next chapter awaits.